President Vladimir Zelenskyy has proposed a meeting with Vladimir Putin to discuss ending the war in Ukraine. This proposal immediately raises a critical question about what actually happens when two adversaries sit at the same table during an active conflict. The real stakes are not whether peace is possible, but how such a summit reshapes the balance of power and alters the incentives for every nation involved. By watching this video, you will understand that a proposed meeting is rarely a step toward peace. It is often the ultimate bargaining chip used to fracture alliances and trade territorial leverage for time. To grasp why this matters, we must look past the emotional rhetoric dominating news cycles. The narrative usually frames Zelenskyy's offer as a desperate plea, or Putin's silence as stubbornness. This perspective misses the strategic calculus entirely. In Realpolitik, every diplomatic gesture is calculated to maximize advantage while minimizing cost. When Ukraine proposes a summit, they are not simply asking for peace talks. They are attempting to break Russia's war fatigue and force a shift in Western leverage that has become stagnant. The asymmetry here is profound because Putin can afford silence while Zelenskyy must maintain constant pressure through data and sentiment analysis to keep global attention focused on the crisis. Consider the digital landscape of this conflict as an example of how information itself has become a weapon. Research into press releases from both sides reveals a stark divergence in communication strategies following the invasion. A dataset compiled by analyzing 1796 total press releases shows that Zelenskyy's rhetoric shifted significantly toward expressions of disgust and sadness after the war began, while Putin maintained a remarkably stable tone throughout the crisis. This difference is not accidental. It reflects two different operating systems for diplomacy. Ukraine floods channels with emotional data to maintain moral clarity and Western support, whereas Russia uses diplomatic silence as a weapon to obscure their strategic position and avoid accountability in the public sphere. Quick resource note: I keep a curated set of Amazon search links in the description for books, gear, and tools relevant to this channel's topics. Some are affiliate links, so I may earn a commission at no extra cost to you. Please consider supporting the channel by using those links if you find something useful. When Zelenskyy proposes a meeting, he risks disrupting this carefully managed flow of information. By suggesting negotiations, Ukraine effectively opens a channel for Moscow to fracture that narrative unity without conceding any ground on the battlefield. This is where the proposal functions as an asymmetric trade-off. Ukraine stands to lose territorial recognition leverage by entering talks that might implicitly validate Russian control over occupied regions in exchange for the mere chance of peace. Meanwhile, Russia gains the strategic advantage of delaying Western unity simply by forcing Ukraine into reactive negotiations. The meeting itself becomes a tool to stall momentum rather than resolve conflict. The core insight here is that summit proposals are often used as delay tactics by the stronger party when they face fatigue from their own population or allies. For Moscow, inviting talks allows them to signal willingness without making concessions. It forces Kyiv into a position where rejecting a meeting looks like an unwillingness to end suffering, while accepting it risks legitimizing current territorial realities through negotiation. This dynamic creates a trap for Ukraine. If they do not meet the proposal, they risk losing Western support. If they do meet, they may lose their primary bargaining chip regarding territory. The asymmetry in press release volume highlights this perfectly, with Russia's stable silence contrasting against Ukraine's flood of data, suggesting that Moscow prefers to control the narrative through absence rather than engagement. This strategic friction is why a summit proposal should not be mistaken for peace. It is an attempt by one side to change the terms of engagement without changing the underlying reality on the ground. The research indicates that Zelenskyy's rhetorical shift toward negative emotions like disgust and sadness was intended as a calculated signal, but it does not guarantee that Moscow will reciprocate with similar emotional transparency or compromise. Instead, Putin uses these proposals to fracture Western unity by creating confusion about whether negotiations are genuine or merely performative acts designed to buy time for Russia to rearm or regroup domestically. The danger lies in the assumption that dialogue inherently leads to de-escalation. History shows that when one party holds a military advantage and another relies on diplomatic pressure, talks often serve as a mechanism to stabilize the status quo rather than improve it. In this specific context, Ukraine risks trading territorial recognition leverage for potential peace talks, while Moscow gains time without paying a price in blood or resources. The meeting becomes a tool to fracture Western unity by introducing doubt about whether further military aid is necessary if diplomacy seems on the horizon. This strategic maneuver allows Russia to maintain pressure while appearing open to resolution, effectively using the proposal as a shield against international sanctions and continued support for Kyiv's defense efforts. Ultimately, the value of this analysis lies in understanding that diplomatic gestures are not neutral acts. They are calculated moves in a high-stakes game where every word carries weight and silence speaks volumes. The emotional divergence seen in thousands of press releases underscores how information warfare shapes these negotiations just as much as battlefield dynamics do. When Ukraine proposes a summit, it is a move to reset the strategic clock, but Russia may use that same proposal to extend the conflict on their own terms by delaying necessary Western unity and exploiting the fatigue of global audiences who crave peace above all else. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. I am a one-person team working hard to make each video better than the last. Subscribe if you found value. It is the best way to show support. Drop a comment with your biggest takeaway. See you in the next video.